you just get out of here?
There's one way to set up the segment. That was a scene, Mike, from the 1988 comedy Big Business.
Classic comedy.
Midler, Tomlin, come on. Where two sets of identical twins meet after being separated at birth. Something like that now actually has happened in real life. It's the cover story. It's a remarkable story for this weekend's New York Times Magazine, titled The Mixed Up Brothers of Bogota. Joining us now is the New York Times Magazine editor-in-chief, Jake Silverstein. Jake, we know it's a complicated story when you bring props.
I had to bring props.
Citrus props.
So, citrus props.
Best you can set up this story for us.
I have tried to explain this story to a lot of people, and I have found that a visual aid is just extremely helpful here.
I'm excited.
Essentially what you have here is two sets of identical twins, right?
Okay.
From very different parts of the country of Colombia. One is from, a pair are from the far north, a rural region. Another pair are from the capital city of Bogota. And what happens is an innocent mistake happens at the hospital, and this is what happens. So you end up with two sets of identical twins that are now being raised by their mothers as fraternal twins. The families are told that they have fraternal twins. It takes until their 20s to find out, to discover all of this. And that's where our story picks up.
Born in the same hospital on the same day?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, but essentially, it's a mix-up at the hospital, which results in this happening.
But here's the amazing turn in the story, and it occurs when a woman leaves her office and goes to a butcher shop.
That's right. So the fraternal twins who are raised in the country, way out in the middle of nowhere, rural, you got to even walk through like an hour in the mud to get there. No electricity, no plumbing. So their names are Wilbur and Carlos, right? And I'm sorry, see, I always make this mistake when I'm doing it. Wilbur and William, and they moved to the capital city and end up both working in a butcher shop, right? Well, now one of a co-worker of one of the guys that lives in the city, she goes to the butcher shop and she sees who she thinks is the guy she knows from like her office. He's the guy, he's Jorge from piping, right? That's the department he works in. So she goes to the counter. She says, Jorge, what are you doing working in a butcher shop? And he says, I'm not Jorge. What are you talking about? I'm William. And so she goes back. She talks to Jorge back at her office. She shows him pictures on the phone. Over a few weeks, this starts to come out. They text each other back and forth pictures. Then they start looking at each other's Facebook profiles. And, of course, on Facebook, this guy over here, he sees on this guy's Facebook profile that this guy's fraternal twin looks exactly like his fraternal twin. And, of course, their minds are blown, and it's just like the clip that we...
So when is the meeting? When do they come face to face for the first?
The night that they figure it out, they quickly came together in a park in Bogota. And we actually have the clip up on our site.
Let's take a look. We actually have the clip.
William está más blanquito.
Sí, William está más blanco.
¿El frío? El frío. No, pero increíble este deporte.
Bastante increíble. Dios mío, no, esto no puede ser cierto.
No, marica.
No, yo no me puedo creer. O sea, yo analizo lo que pasó y yo digo, bueno, no sé si es mejor lo que sucedió o no ir en la calle y verlo.
All right, so off of that, is Carlos the lemon or the lime?
I knew you were going to ask me that. So this is Carlos right here.
He's a sensitive guy.
Yeah.
Tell about what happens with Carlos.
Yeah, I mean, really the heart of this story, so there's 4 characters in the story, but to me the heart of the story are the 2 brothers who were raised kind of not where they were supposed to be raised, the 2 guys who missed out on what was supposed to be...
Who were not raised by their true parents.
Who were not raised by the true parents, and who were raised in these radically different environments. And so you have the one character is Carlos, and he was sort of supposed to be raised in the country in real poverty, and instead he had a more comfortable childhood, went to a good public school, etc., in the capital city. And then you have William, who was supposed to be raised in that environment, but instead had a very, very difficult upbringing. When he was 6 years old, he would travel 5 hours to buy groceries, spend the night overnight in La Paz, which is the nearest big city, go back with his mother, hacking sugarcane as a kid, carrying 50-pound bags on his back. Very, very different. And so to my mind, the heart of the story are these 2 brothers who got switched and who have to grapple with it. And what's interesting is the brother who's raised in the city, this is Carlos, you asked about, he has to wonder, would I have accomplished what I've accomplished? He's an accountant. Would I have accomplished would I be a professional had I not had the advantages that I'd have? And this is starting to dawn on him as our reporter, Sue Dominus, who did an amazing job with this story. She's with him, and he's going to visit the rural town where he would have been from, and he's realizing, you know, the ways in which his own destiny is maybe not his own destiny. And then
How
the
are
other
the
guy,
moms? I mean, I'm a mother. You think you would know.
The mother of the city twins is deceased. She died 3 years before they even found this out.
Wow.
The mother of the country twins is pretty just reticent about the whole thing. I mean, she doesn't, you know, she's very welcoming of her biological son, but it's complicated. And this is all still pretty fresh. This has only been out for, they've only known this for about a year and a half. And so they're still trying to process this and figure out what their new family will look like.
And one other little anecdote before you leave us.
Yeah.
Talk about how the lemon, in order to prove to the lime that you will always be my brother, even though you're not my brother, gets a tattoo.
Jorge. This is Jorge. So that the two brothers, Jorge and Wilbur, who were raised essentially where they were supposed to be raised, are, as I said before, one aspect of the story. And Jorge, to prove to his not real brother, Carlos, that he loves him, he gets his face tattooed on his chest, right next to a tattoo of their dead mother. Yeah. It's a fascinating story because it really gets at nature versus nurture in a fundamental way. It's an experiment.
Are they famous in Colombia?
Yeah, they are. There's a big show on Septimo Dia, a news magazine program there, that it brought this story initially to the attention of the twins researcher, which is how we got onto this story, because they're being studied by people who do twins research about how much of our, you know, how many of our traits have genetic origin, and so they're being, you know, studied extensively.
And we've only had time to scratch the surface. People have to read this story. It's incredible, and it's the cover of this weekend's New York Times Magazine. Jake, congratulations, and thanks for bringing it to us.
Can we keep the fruit?
You can keep the fruit.
That's for us? You're a good man. Thanks a lot, Jake. We'll be right back.